Welcome to January's edition of Hungerford Chamber of Commerce by Zoom. My name is Karen Salmon. I'm the chairman. I'd like to introduce Karen Ferris. Karen is an HR consultant. She actually lives in Marlborough, but she's very active in Hungerford. She is part of the Hungerford Legal and Financial Centre. So she's one of our resident experts in employment law. She gave a very interesting talk at the last meeting, and therefore we've asked her back to give an update on where we all are with lockdown and government initiatives. So thank you very much, Karen, for taking the time out again, and I'll hand it over to you for a little while.
Okay, thanks, Karen. So really what I've done is I've got the last presentation I did was about the Kickstart scheme, and I thought it would be helpful for the business people in the call to just go through changes in employment law that are coming through and pending. So just to kick off is a reminder about the end of the furlough scheme for any of you who have furloughed or have been furloughed. If you furloughed staff or have been furloughed, that the scheme was due originally to finish at the end of March, and that date was pushed back to the 30th of April, and that's the current date at the moment. So really the message here is that any companies who have used the scheme really do need to start their planning now about how they're going to manage their teams and finances, etc., post the 30th of April. Because if those companies who may need to make the unfortunate decision to make redundancies, they will need to follow a proper redundancy process. So that's the furlough scheme. Then next is for the self-employed amongst us, is about the new IR35 requirements. So due to COVID, I think there were lots of people thought the government would push back on this, but they haven't. So essentially what it means is that this has been happening in the public sector for a couple of years now, but it basically means where you are working as a contractor through your own kind of limited or personal service company, the company that you're working for will need to treat you as a worker rather than a contractor, self-employed person, and that they'll need to take national insurance and PAYE. Okay, so yeah, so basically the IR35 requirements, that's what it is. It's essentially those self-employed people who are working on a regular basis with a particular company will need to be treated as workers, and therefore will have tax deducted in the same way as an employee, which is attractive for some and not for others. So the next slide is around changes to statutory rates. So one of the things that's being proposed is that the highest level of the national living wage, at the moment, the age limit's set at 25 plus, but there are plans to move that down to 23 and over. So these are the increases that will be effective from April 2021. So for 23 and above, it will go from 8.72 to 8.91 per hour. 21 to 22 is £8.20 to 8.36. 18 to 20-year-olds is 6.45 to 6.56. And 16 to 17-year-olds is 4.55 to 4.62. And then those other kind of family leave rates, so like maternity leave, paternity leave, adoption leave, the weekly rates for those are increasing to 151.97. and statutory sick pay is increasing massively from from £95.85 to a whole £96.35. So not quite even a pound there, so that's a bit sad. And it kind of gives you some context, I suppose, around the difficulties of people who are getting ill at the moment and still going into work that we hear about in the news. You can kind of see why that might be. And I'm not sure how this might affect all of you, but I think it is a change. I thought that you might be interested in, and this is really around due to Brexit and the no longer free movement across the EU, etc. So those people who want to work in the EU, from the EU coming into the UK, there's a new points-based immigration system. And if you want to employ foreign nationals going forward, they'll need to be sponsored. And there's a formal process you need to go through to be able to do that. You definitely would need to take special advice on it. Having run this sort of thing before myself when I was an employed HR director, it's quite heavy on the old admin. But essentially, as long as you've got your license approved, then once that process is finished, it's quite straightforward. And then finally from me, it's just a Kickstart update. So it was announced this week that from the 3rd of Feb, that all businesses, irrespective of your size and irrespective of the number of Kickstart placements you might want to have, you can apply for them directly. So previously, the rules are that you needed to have, to do a direct application, you needed to have 30 or more placements. But from next week, that changes. So even if you only wanted one placement, you could apply for that directly yourself. So the gateway, so my company and me, we're operating as a gateway. So that was supporting small businesses to be able to access the scheme. So the gateways can still run and people can still use a gateway if you want to, because you want somebody else to run the application process for you. So that still happens, but it was just, I thought it was kind of important really that people knew that that option was available if you hadn't already been made aware of it. And that's it from me. So
Can I ask a question, Karen?
Yeah, of course.
The gateway, what are the advantages and disadvantages of using the gateway system or doing it on your own? I mean, is the form filling onerous for people that, you know, maybe not used to filling forms in? Is it, you know, would it be advisable to still go through the gateway?
I think if you are used to completing forms and that you feel that you fully understand the requirements of the scheme, I think absolutely you could make a direct application. To illustrate for you, I suppose, I have submitted 2 applications so far, and I'm creating kind of a 3rd list at the moment. And in the first application, there were 96 placements, and only 27 of those were approved.
Wow. Okay.
And in the second one, there were 75 placements, but 65 of them were approved.
Okay.
There are a couple that are repeat ones, so people who didn't get through on the first one, I put them back through in the second, and there's still a couple that have kind of fallen by the wayside. So the only thing I would say that's probably a benefit, if I was to think about the knowledge that I have compared to one of you that may not have ever made an application, is that I've spoken to lots of different people from DWP, and so I suppose I have a better understanding of the process that happens afterwards rather than actually making the application itself, because DWP themselves are on a massive learning curve. So even I know that over Christmas they had more than 50,000 job placements to be uploaded onto the universal credit system to make them available for those people on universal credit to be able to get access to those placements. So it's quite a massive job, and I think that they'd underestimated the significance of the task in hand. So they're very much kind of playing catch up. So that's a very long answer to your question, really. So I would say much more about being able to manage the process afterwards than making the application itself.
Karen, have any of the people that you gather together on your list, me being one of them, I hasten to add, have you had any successes in actually placing personnel, and are they embedded and in place and working now?
Not yet.
That's what I was going to ask you, because I've heard anecdotally that nothing has happened yet.
So actually, in line with the press release about this change to making the applications, that it was announced that only 2,000 Kickstart placements are in place nationally. I know of somebody who's based in Chippenham who actually made an application on the very first day the scheme was open for 50 placements, and she got it. And she does have all of her people, and she's lost 2 of those placements, but because they managed to get jobs elsewhere. So that's all a good news story from that perspective. But from the ones from the ones that I've managed, actually getting the jobs advertised has been the latest difficulty that I've had, and I only actually managed the beginning of last week to get the correct email address to even send them across to the universal credit people. So there's a fair amount of misinformation, let's say.
Presumably the jobs are advertised in the geographical region of where the companies are based, or is it a national database?
It is a national database, but the job coaches who would be trying to match the candidates would be on, that would be based around locality, although quite a number of the roles that I've managed are remote, so they could be anywhere.
Okay.
And I know that the company in Chippenham, that all of those posts are remote, and there are, I think weirdly, she did end up with 2 people who lived in the same street and didn't know each other, so that's good. But yes, so some of them are obviously, the remote ones can come from anywhere.
So if people go through you, which we're definitely going to do you charge a fee for the processing that comes out of the £1,500 per candidate?
No.
You don't?
There is the government for gateways that they provide an admin fee. So that admin fee is per placement, and that's paid direct to the gateway. So that so all of the coordination, putting the application together, managing that whole process, there's no cost to the business for that.
God, so why wouldn't they go through a gateway? Then that's no-brainer, isn't it?
Well, I just wonder whether some people aren't aware of all of the gateways, because some of the companies that have made contact with me in recent weeks are sort of all over the place. They're not just local companies. And I spoke to a guy in Leicester last week, and I don't have any clients in that neck of the woods. So
is there I mean, I've just looked at the application form here, and there's one question I don't really understand. So what's the time frame if I get ours in the next week or so?
actually, something else I discovered, or I was told just on Monday, was that because I've had 2 applications already approved, that I can just add to those, so I can submit like a variation to my grant application. So again, this is probably another thing, that rather than having to go through that process every time, that as a gateway, because I'm an approved gateway, that I can just put those through. So the last application actually only took about 2.5 weeks to go through, which is amazing considering the first one took more than 2.5 months.
Okay.
So it should be quite a good, quick turnaround. It's coming out the other end is where the lag is now, is actually getting the jobs posted for you then to get candidates.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Does anybody else have any questions for Karen? Nope. So can I just welcome Laura? Thank you for joining us again. Do you want to go now, Laura, just in case you get called away?
Yes, thank you so much. I'm doing BBC News a bit later, so I have got to go at 7:30. It's so nice to see you all. I'm sure, like me, you're totally over Zoom as a sort of medium for meeting, but nonetheless, we are where we are, and it's really good to talk to you. I know actually from a discussion I had with somebody in my team that some questions were pre-submitted, and I can't find them in my calendar. Although I know a lot of them were about the timetable for recovery and the green recovery. So, Karen, would you mind if I asked you to sort of moderate and put the questions to me, and I'll speak to them, or the kind of general themes you'd like me to speak to, and I'll do that now.
Yeah, okay. I think one of the main issues, and I've been asked by Helen to raise this with you, is that some of our local businesses in the town are finding that the funding support is coming through a little bit slowly. And I just wondered if there was a reason.
No, I think that's a very good question, and I must be honest with you. I wasn't aware of it until this week, and I did a sort of round table with some pubs, and they were saying the same thing. And I think I have to say, I think this is an issue that I need to take up to West Berkshire Council on your behalf. I think that's what I can do realistically. Could you give me a sense of what sort of time frames you're looking at? So presumably you're talking about businesses that would be entitled to kind of closure grants, if I can call them that. I assume you've been in touch with the local authority, and have you had what's the sort of, does anyone know what the time frame is, or what the type of lag is, and then I will raise it.
I think what the type of lag is that businesses aren't getting the email invitation to apply for the grant, even though they qualify for the grant. So they're then having to contact West Berkshire Council for the application. I mean, Keith, correct me if I'm wrong here. And then when the applications are going in, in the first lockdown, it was you put your application in, and the money was in your bank account the next day to pay your running costs. But there seems to be like a blank wall. So they put their application in, and they hear nothing, and they don't know whether they're going to get the money. So I think the communication seems to have broken down a little bit.
Right. Okay. So Karen, thank you. I will take that.
Yeah.
Keith, just to pick up on that point, I would certainly take that up for you in the morning. I do recall actually during the very first lockdown there was an equivalent issue, and then that was quite quickly resolved, and I haven't heard of any other problems since then. But you, as I say, you're the second group this week who've raised it, so I will take it up with you tomorrow with the local authority. I'm sort of surprised that they haven't got their systems in place, because I understood the first time and it was kind of a novel experience, just kind of putting direct grants to so many businesses. But anyway, all I can do really is take it up, and I'll get back to you, Karen. Fiona, I can see you've got your hand raised. would you like to come in?
Yeah, it was just to say I sent my application in at the end of November, which I didn't hear anything. So over the Christmas holidays, I called them and was discovered that they actually didn't receive my first one. So I sent another email on the 29th of December. I had an email back from them yesterday, and they asked me to send some more information. I did that yesterday, and I had an email back today to say that the money would be going in on Friday. So once they actually pick up the communication, they're actually really quick, but it's obviously a delay in actually picking up the emails. I didn't wait for an email to invite me to apply. I went straight onto the website and did it myself from, you know, the links that they have there.
Can I just give you all one kind of tip that I'm finding a little bit with general advice I'm giving on other matters to constituents? Any communication you have with anything like the local authority, I really strongly recommend, if you've got the facilities, to scan and post anything as well, because I've just had people complaining about things, various things, and when I've taken it up, it hasn't been received, and that's usually via the mail. I don't know if there's some issue right now, but I just think if you have records and copies and scanned stuff too, you're more likely, I think, to avoid, I mean, this may not be what happened with you, Fiona, but you know, I think you're more likely to avoid these kind of these sort of delays.
Yeah, it was an email that they didn't receive, and they said that I should have received an
acknowledgement,
an automatic response. Yes, and I didn't realise that, so I didn't pick up that they'd not received the first one.
Sure. Okay. Well, look, I'll take that up for you, and thanks so much. Emma, I can see you've got your hand up. Hi.
Hi. Actually, just in contrast to that, we were approached by the council and to say we had applied for a grant previously, so would we like one this time? And we said yes, please, which was nice. But Alex and I are really confused about what grants are available since Christmas. Is there one grant or two different grants? Sorry to sound really thick.
I think there's two. There's the one based on your rateable value, but there's also this discretionary grant that is that they can give to anybody who's not applied, not been eligible for previous grants, and that's discretionary.
Ah, right.
Yeah.
Okay. So the one they're talking about is we've had one, so they were just talking about the other one for us, I guess.
Yeah. Can I say the Croft Hall trustees, of which I'm one, we've just applied for one of these discretionary grants. I haven't heard any response, so you know I echo what other people have said. I think they're a bit poor at coming back to you.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm going to be chasing them up tomorrow.
Can I just then, since we're on this subject, can I just check? Is it discretionary grants that people then are struggling with and hearing back on more than the rateable value grant, or is it both?
I get the impression from people that have spoken to me and social media is both grants.
Right. Okay. Well, that's a point I can easily take up for you. I'm happy to do so.
Well, I remember Gabrielle saying, I think it might have been on the last call, that they were hoping that everybody would hear through the advertising that the grants were available. But if they saw that certain people that they knew were eligible hadn't applied, then they would approach them, but they were waiting for people to come to them. I know they had the books. Gabrielle knows Emma and Alex, and you know she proactively contacted them, but on the whole she was waiting for people to come to make their own applications.
Right. Yeah.
I think the problem with that is we have quite a few tradespeople in Hungerford, and they don't have the time or inclination to check their emails all the time because they're out doing, the plumbing or the building or whatever it is. So I certainly think we need to be a little bit, or West Berkshire Council needs to be a little bit more proactive in, even if it's sending a letter.
Okay. I'll definitely take that up.
Yeah. And Penny, you had some questions about the green issues.
I do, but before that, there's something else that actually I'd be interested on Laura's thoughts on this. Laura, there's a builder's merchant out near me, so not in Hungerford, but still in West Berkshire, And you know, the government wants builders merchants to stay open.
Yeah.
The problem they're having is with their childcare for their staff. So their staff who live in Wiltshire found it really easy to get their kids into school because they work for a builder's merchant. Their staff who live in West Berkshire have not, and they've spent hours on the phone with the legal department of West Berkshire Council, and they're just getting stonewalled. They're not budging.
So I think they've approached me, and I can tell you what the principle is. So the principle of it's key worker status to get the children into school. I think the building industry creates a grey area, but we did look into this for them, and unfortunately, Wiltshire have made the wrong decision in law.
Okay.
I don't have any jurisdiction over that, but they have. If you're doing building work in the sense of national infrastructure, so you're building a public building or you're building a road, then you're a key worker. And I have to say, I'm not sure a builder's merchant would even then actually fit into the same test. But if you are the building company yourself, and that's what you're doing, then you and your employees are key workers and your children go to school. But if you're doing sort of kitchen extensions and sort of domestic stuff or even corporate stuff, you're not a key worker and your children haven't got the right to be in school. And that, I'm afraid, is the principle. I'm sorry, they have approached me. I hadn't heard about the difference of Wiltshire, but Wiltshire have got it wrong. We looked carefully at the rules, and then they asked us to intercede, and we couldn't because they were explaining what they were doing, and we could see they didn't meet the test of key worker.
Okay. He did show me a trade letter that he'd had from some building association, which he said he interpreted as applying to him. There was no distinction between national building infrastructure schemes and the smaller domestic stuff. That wasn't mentioned in the letter, so it's obviously quite confusing for them.
Well, I have to say, it is actually quite clear on the government website, but it is, I think you're right, Penny, and one of the things I've noticed is it does seem to be the category over which there is the most confusion. Another group of people who've approached me are architects, and again, we had to draw the distinction between designing public buildings, where, you know, the essential test of a key worker is anyone who's doing a job that involves the basics of keeping the country going in skeleton form. So if you're building a railway, you're not, you know, you're a key worker. But if you're just doing stuff that's nice to have, then that's not key work. It's sort of critical infrastructure, critical work is the best definition of it. And as I say, it is around this building architecture type stuff where I've seen, I think there are grey areas, and there's been also a bit of an imbalance in the way some schools have approached it, I think. I think some schools have been quite relaxed and haven't challenged key workers, and others have been much stricter.
So, yeah, it's confusing. Thank you for that.
Yeah. So, well, I know that was not a very helpful answer, but...
Andrew has a question before you have to dash off, Laura.
No, yeah, not at all, not at all. I mean, I've got 5-10 minutes left. I think I just heard one of my kids, I thought they were falling down the stairs, but they were just shouting at the end of it, laughing. So I think they were right. I think it was deliberate. Humble.
Yeah, my question, Laura, is more around the grants that are available. What we've hit is that we're actually not having to close. So we're not being forced to close. However, the amount of work that we're actually doing has decreased dramatically. And so looking at the figures in January are around about 70 to 80% reduction in the amount of revenue coming in, which obviously is a massive impact, but we're not actually closed. And part of that is, I will have to say, is discretionary, because the thing is we're wanting to keep people keep people in their homes rather than coming out to see us, unless it's absolutely critical that they do so. But it is something that I do feel this time around, compared to the first lockdown, that people like myself have been actually forgotten about.
Andrew, I think I'm right in saying that during the first lockdown you were compelled to close.
We were compelled to close, yes.
Yeah.
And so that went on from whenever it was to the 1st of June. But even then, that was a partial opening. And then we had the same in November, where we partially closed. And again, in January, where it's probably we're more close than we were in November. But and I think that's where, and so I've still got the same outgoings, whereas the first time round I was getting help on the outgoings as well as everything else. But this time around, there isn't the same help available. And it's just more looking at that side of it, where where I just feel that we've just been forgotten about slightly.
I think
very sorry.
The discretionary grant is meant to so if your business has been impacted by COVID.
That's right.
Yeah, no, unfortunately, that doesn't seem to be the case.
Yeah, Penny, I can say actually with the discretionary grant, there is a scheme, and I think it's published on the West Berkshire website how you can access it, but actually I haven't totally followed the sort of method that is applied, because I know that some of my constituents who I've pointed towards that have been successful and others haven't. But Andrew, if you haven't approached them yet for the discretionary grant, I would have a go.
Yeah, I've spoken to them and they said that I'm not eligible.
Can you furlough yourself?
Unfortunately not, because the thing is that if there's somebody who's in critical need, the thing is that I'm still working. I've still got people working in the clinic who are legally allowed to be working. So it's not like it was.
But you still could. You still could furlough yourself. I don't think the test is whether they legally can't work.
You can half furlough yourself. You don't have to furlough yourself fully. You can furlough yourself for 2 days.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the thing is, because of the way the furlough scheme came about, I'm not eligible for furlough either.
Right.
So,
or the self-employed income support scheme, you're not.
No, because I'm one of those. Unfortunately, I'm one of those excluded people, because at the time when they were looking at the whole self-employment, I was one of those ones who had greater than 50% from employed income.
But you could furlough yourself on the basis of your employed income if it was. You probably worked all this out already, Andrew, haven't you? I mean, yeah.
I think it's the trouble is that the problem is because of the way things have, and it's just a situation. It's not. I'm not going to turn around and be uppity about it. But the thing is that there does seem to be people that have missed, that are falling between the stalls, and this is where I think it just needs a little bit of flexibility. And the thing is that I'm not really looking for anything major. It's just a little bit of assistance to help me through until I can when it's safe, to fully reopen. And the problem is part of that is down to my discretion as well. So the thing is let's be honest about it as well.
So Andrew, I kind of give you what I think my view is. I think it's probably better to be honest with you. I don't think the Chancellor's going to announce any new financial schemes. I think the schemes that are in place are the schemes now. The big sort of headlines which come as a response to any question that he's asked is really to look out for the budget, which is on the 3rd of March. And I think it is safe to say that he is thinking really hard about things like extending the business rates holiday for another year. I don't know that he's going to do that, but I do think he's thinking hard about it. And I also think he's thinking hard about schemes, and I know this won't affect you, but it does affect quite a lot of businesses. Things like the Eat Out to Help Out scheme were fantastically successful last summer. And when it's safe to do so, I think he will be looking at ways of stimulating consumer demand and trying to get footfall back on the high street. So I think the budget will be an important moment, and I think there will be more support announced in it. And as I say, that's the 3rd of March. But I do think, actually, I watched the PMQs today and also the Prime Minister's statement and then the press conference at 5 o'clock. And I think that the announcement that schools may open on the 8th of March can almost be interpreted as something that's quite likely to happen unless the data reveals something that is surprising. So in other words, if we don't see a fall in hospitalizations or deaths, or if there's a new variant that sort of upends the scheme. At the moment, things are moving in the right direction. We do remain on track to vaccinate the first 4 priority groups by the 15th of February. And from what I'm hearing kind of behind the scenes is even if we don't make that, we'll only just not make it, like maybe another week or something. That sort of, I think, having in your minds the idea of sort of, so let's say mid to 2/3 of the way through February, the first 4 priority groups having received their vaccinations remains a fair assumption, and we are now heading into the final days of January. He said, which is correct, that they're still assessing whether or not the vaccine materially affects transmission rates, which isn't really, the vaccine when it was tested in the early stages was whether or not it was effective in stopping people from becoming ill with coronavirus. And that's what that was what was sufficient to get it MHRA approval and onto the market. But the early tests from Israel do suggest that it also stops transmission between people. And if that's the case, that will be significant in the speed in which we can open up. Yep. But I do think that there will be the beginning of a period of sort of some relaxation announced from the 8th of March, unless something happens to the data which is surprising and doesn't sort of continue the trends that we're beginning to see now. And therefore, I do think things like partially open businesses may expect a different type of demand after that date, because there will be coming with that announcement, there will be news, I think, to make people feel more confident about leaving their homes and returning to some of the things that they like and need to do. I'm not saying we'll be returning to normal life then, but I think it'll be a sort of first, I think it will be a big moment. And we know, certainly on schools, the announcement will be made at the end of the 3rd week of February anyway. So you'll sort of be able to read the runes, I think, as to how things are moving from about that date. In terms of sort of a wider reopening, I think that the Prime Minister is going to be generally pretty cautious, because, I'm sort of slightly speaking off script, but I think, of course, this is an unbelievable ask of people to go into a 3rd national lockdown in the space of less than a year. But I think the reason why people can tolerate it this time is because of the vaccine, and because the data shows that the rollout of the vaccine has been really successful. We remain the 3rd most successful country globally doing that. We're behind the UAE and Israel, but we are really getting through hundreds of thousands of people every day. And the scheme in West Berkshire is working very well. We started quite slow, but we're reaching our targets. With the medical team have set their own date targets. They've got 3 and they've met their first one. They're aiming to finish all the over 80s by the 31st of January, and then to work through the 70s by sort of the middle of February. And at the moment, they still tell me they're on track. And the last kind of conference call I had with them was yesterday. So I think the Prime Minister would rather get, a good chunk of the population vaccinated and have a few weeks for that, obviously, to kick in, because it's only the first vaccination, and to make sure all the data is he's confident in all the data that he's seeing. Because I think when he takes his foot off the brake this time, he does not want to put it back on again. He doesn't want there to be any type of sort of tightening up of restrictions in the future. So that's the kind of mood music that's coming out of government. So I think we'll see a gradual release between now and the summer. And I'm not even sure that we'll be totally back to normal in the summer, if I'm honest. I had on my pub call earlier in the week, somebody asked me if I thought they could host a festival in the first week of July. And I don't know whether or not we'll be at the stage of festivals. I genuinely don't know, but I didn't want to suggest that I have any insight or confidence that would be the case. And we basically agreed he would hold off his business plan on that until the end of March, which seems a better time for him to make a decision. Fiona?
I was just going, sorry,
Oh.
just to jump. Well, thank you for that, and I appreciate your honesty. I think that is appreciated. I think you're right about the vaccinations and where we are. And the thing is I think the vaccine is the way that we're going to come out of this at some point. So the thing is that, and as we've had in our further communications, I am actually applied for a role as a vaccinator to actually help with that. So that can be part of the solution rather than part of the problem. So, but thank you.
Well done, Andrew.
Fiona?
Hi, it was just following on from what you were saying about the roadmap that the Prime Minister is thinking about. I have a non-essential shop, although some people would call it essential, in Hungerford. And do you think that there'll be any chance of non-essential shops reopening before Easter?
My guess, Fiona, would be no.
That's what I thought.
As I say, I don't know, but I think that's likely. But I would expect shops to be open reasonably soon after that. And I think they would want them to be open reasonably soon after that. I do feel somewhere between the middle of April and or the end of April, there will be some significant movement on a lot of things. And one of the things that I really learned from the last 9 months that I think really, really annoyed people almost more than anything else was when we went into those elaborate tiering systems. You know, I suppose this was more about kind of restaurants and cafes and pubs and stuff, but people around here found it absolutely infuriating when we were in like tier 2, another place, you know, over the border it was tier 1, and then we went up to tier 4, and other places were tier 2, and they just could not kind of accept that. And there was all that Scotch egg stuff, and I think that just really irritated people. And so some feedback I have given to the government is whatever they do in terms of kind of restricting, for example, you'll remember the rule of 6 in pubs, and I think that worked reasonably okay actually, because you could meet a few friends and you could sort of socialise a bit. If they're going to do that, I'd much rather they did big swathes of the country so people felt that all around there was some parity of treatment. I think when you start carving places up, you cause more frustration than relief, even if people can still do a few things. They find that.
I'm sure Emma and Co would agree with Hungerford being tier 4 on the Saturday before Christmas, but Marlborough wasn't. I live in Marlborough, and I can tell you, it was completely overrun.
Yeah, so I don't think that really worked, and it was so, I have to say, I'm not sure it really worked as a health policy either, because it was all so short term, and then we went into a lockdown that it seemed, and I just don't think you can really create you know, we do live in, I mean, as an MP, you do live in a sort of weird world of constituency boundaries and county boundaries, but actually people don't realistically live like that, and they, you know, you can work in one town and live in another town 10 miles away, and in fact your life is very kind of, in a way, quite compact, but it may be that there's a county border between you and that you're not, you know. So, and also very frustrating questions about visiting much loved sort of elderly relatives and crossing borders and childcare bubbles. So it was all too complicated, and I do think that if they're going to go with that, they'd be better to almost divide the country into 2 or into 4 or something, and have simple, very clear, easy to follow rules. Simplicity and sort of standardization definitely works best with any form of restriction, is what I have found as the local MP.
Well, thank you for your honesty on that. I must confess I have had Easter in my mind since December, but I don't know if it's good or bad to have that confirmed, really.
I think the Prime Minister, so he did say on a call with MPs, which was meant to be sort of private, but all our calls seem to get leaked. I don't know which MP it is that kind of WhatsApps the journalist, but anyway, there was one, and he said, I really want life to feel normal, or much more normal for everyone when the tulips are over. And then everybody was trying to think about what that meant.
Yeah, early flowering or late flowering ones.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Can I just ask, with my membership of the Chamber hat on, if there are members of the Chamber that haven't yet applied for discretionary grants because they didn't know about them, or they missed the first tranche of this, that, or something else, is there money still available, and is there a deadline for applying?
Those are 2 good questions that I don't know the answer to. Something was circulated to me on the discretionary grant recently, which makes me think the money is definitely still available. I've got a call with Lynn Doherty, actually. I can't remember whether it's tomorrow or Monday, but I will ask her. I mean, certainly my understanding is it's still available, but I'll clarify that. And I wasn't aware of an end point either, so I think there isn't an end date, but I need to check both those points to be sure.
I remember Gabrielle saying that they've been given something like 9 million, but
back to me at some stage.
3 years, so they're going to be quite cautious because they don't know if it's going to be topped up, so they can't just spend it all immediately.
Yeah, I've heard that too, actually.
Maybe Laura can feed that back to us as a...
Yeah, so what I'll do is I'll get you the answers on those points, and I'll send it to Karen, perhaps as the kind of conduit, and she can send it on to all of you.
Thank you, Laura.
Perfect.
Right, I'm going to say goodnight. It was so lovely to see you all.
Thank you very much indeed.
Laura.
Look forward to seeing you in person, hopefully when the tulips are over.
Okay. Bye-bye, Laura. Thank you.
Karen, I'm really sorry I have to leave now, but thank you very much for that, and I will be watching the rest of it on the recording that Penny's doing, so thank you.
Fiona, can I just say, I shouted out in the bookshops today, oh, bloody hell, I really miss Inklings not being open, as I was doing.
We had a lot of people coming saying, well, we've got off licenses, we don't want off licenses, we want to be...
I know. Well, just to know you're much missed.
Thank you. Yeah, well, we've actually just put a break on it for the whole of January. We were absolutely, as you are, I know, Emma, exhausted. It was very hard work, wasn't it? Enough feisty customers who not very happy with the situation. So we've just taken a rain check for January. We'll be back next week. But
Yay.
not everyone needed that really. But the girls are all furloughed. It is only me, so I just break.
No, totally understand. Yeah.
So when you say you'll be back next week, Fiona, is that click and
I
collect?
emailed Brian about it today. Yeah, absolutely. Just to say, well, hopefully we'll restart the website next week. But just because of the sort of shop that we are, it's very hard to put it actually on the website. People don't buy cards. They go to the supermarket or wherever. And Emma has a lovely selection. I highly recommend. But and we're the sort of shop where people come and they want to browse. It's not a shame. So we're just thinking about our way forward. I worked out today that we will have been closed for 22 weeks of our financial year, which ends at the weekend. And if we go on till March, we'd have been closed for 29 weeks of the 52 by the time and I mean, it's really hard. We're all in the same situation. I'm just saying for us, I just worked out that's the amount of closed weeks for everybody in the country around here. So
well, if we can put your click and collect situation on.
Well, thank you. I will sort myself out. Thank you, Karen. That's really kind. I only made a decision about it in the last couple of days because I find it quite hard with click and collect because Emma, I'm sorry, I keep referencing yourself, but you want it. Well, I use your click and collect all the time, as you know. So it's lovely if I know I want a book, I can just ring Emma or email her and say I want this particular book and I can go along and collect it. But for us, it doesn't really work like that because so many people come in and we've got 1,000 cards, we've got whatever. So people want to come and browse. So it would be a John Lewis type website for us. And
it's more suited to our product, I think. And we've been saying we've been very lucky with what we sell, and each item has a code, and I can see it's different for your shop.
Yeah, I think we're sort of finding our way forward. We obviously did click and collect in the first and the second, and I did a lot of delivering in the first one and then ended up breaking my ankle on the back of it. And I think with the snow that's come, I could not risk my ankle again. So I decided I'd wait until it got a bit warmer.
Maybe we should set up a click and collect or a collect station in Hungerford.
Well, this is what Shop Appy did. So about 3 years ago, Shop Appy came and talked to us all about it. And I mean, I signed up for Shop Appy, but the problem was they couldn't find a distribution point in the centre of town that was open for the hours that they required for the Shop Appy principle.
Right.
And they were suggesting places like the Heron Gate and things. Well, that's fine, but if you've got anyone in the shop, you can't actually drive down there with all your stuff and go to your shop to get it there.
Maybe we should be talking to the town council about the town hall piece.
No, town and manor, not the town council.
Sorry, town and manor. I was getting confused.
It's to do with the hours that they wanted the collection point to be open, and that was the sticking point. They wanted it open till 9 or 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah, the co-op would be the only place that would fill that.
But I think the problem there is if they want market stallholders, say, to help take part, and why would the co-op offer to keep someone's cabbages they've bought off the market when they sell cabbages as well, I guess.
And a lot of our customers are of the older demographic, and actually they prefer not to go to the co-op or something.
Oh, really? Oh.
A lot of them are keeping away from shops. They liked the fact that we were absolutely rigid with the number of people in the shop and that we wouldn't allow anybody in that hadn't hand sanitized and wear a mask. And I know we were quite draconian, and I know we probably drew some bad comments from it. Google comments reflect that, but it's more that actually 99% of our customers were so thrilled. But of course, it's hard. So yes, I thought Shop Appy was a really good idea. I think it's whether we've got enough diverse shops, because what people would really like is to have a clothes shop or somewhere.
That's a different match, isn't it? I agree with you on the clothes shop situation.
Yeah, I know you can't buy a pair of knickers, can you?
No.
You can, but they're not everyday ones, shall we say?
Valentine's coming up.
But thank you so much, Emma. That was very kind of you. We're still sending people your way, I promise. So
I'll do the same to you.
Comments and things. So everyone was asking. I say, there's other places in town, but we just take a month out.
Speaking with my advisor hat on, and Sarah is also on this call. Send us anything you need and we'll put it
Thank you.
As well.
That's really kind. It's my own fault. I've just got to get my head around it all. I'm not very good at the side of the business. But thank you very much for everyone. Lovely to see everybody. And yeah, I hope, well, from what Laura said, it may be a little while before we're all going to meet up again properly. But thank you for doing this, Karen. That's really lovely.
That's right, no problem. We've still got to hear from Metro Bank to see how they're going to try and help Hungerford. So,
yeah, especially with TSB closing, it's a good opportunity.
I already asked Phil that last year and I got the answer, so maybe which one of you two is going to dive into this one?
But anyway, I must go now, but thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 Thank you.
Over to you, Phil, to start.
Oh, are we on? Right.
We're
Thank you. Thank you, Karen. Good to meet everybody virtually. And thanks for having us on this call. I'm Phil Opie, I'm Local Director for Metro Bank in Newbury, and Sebastian is my local business manager. So just wanted to run through a little bit about Metro Bank. I know some of you, I recognise some of you obviously as customers and the like, and you probably will have heard a little bit about Metro Bank, but I just wanted to go through a little bit about it and what we're doing, why we're a bit different, and things we're doing to help customers. So hopefully that'll be of interest. So I'll just try and share my screen now. Hopefully it will work. Where is it? There we go. Share this. There we go. Right. Can everybody see that?
Yeah.
It's like Harrods.
That's not Hungerford, Phil. I'm telling you, that's not Hungerford.
It's going to look like.
It's close, isn't it? It's close.
Okay.
I'm trying to make it bigger, but it doesn't seem to want to take the. Oh, there we go. That's better, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, yep. So that's our head office in Southampton Row in London.
Yeah.
That's where it all started. So, just in terms of a bit of a history, we've been going. We're Britain's first new high street bank in over 100 years. So, when we say high street bank, others have popped up that are, internet only, but actually having bricks and mortar. It's been over 100 years since a bank applied for and got a license. We got our license in 2010, and we opened our first store in July 10. As I say, that was in Holborn, and it was a big, big party and everything, balloons and all that. It was a really big difference. People wanted to see what this was all about. And as you can see on the opening slide, and then this next slide, we are very different in terms of how we present ourselves. The look and feel of the store is different. And we want to make it seem open and appealing, not sort of stuffy and closed like some of the other banks may be. We were listed on the stock exchange in March 16, so that was a significant moment for us in our growth. And basically, we are serving all full service, so retail, business, and commercial customers. And the difference we make is we're 7-day opening, and we have an online presence, we have mobile presence, and we've got 24/7 UK call centres, so customers can choose how they bank with us. We currently have 77 stores, and we are continuing to open them actually even through lockdown. We opened a couple last year. We're over 2 million customer accounts and growing, and we've won some awards as well through the process. The most recent being the Money Age Awards, Best Bank of the Year. Previously also Most Trusted Financial Provider. Also, we've been recommended or highly rated on the CMA results. This is an independent survey done of 15 banking providers. We've been rated highly for business and personal service. So what makes us different? Our people. We have face-to-face relationships. We have people in stores. So I think that's very much different. With relationship bank business. And as it says there, we embrace diversity and inclusion as well. So everyone can apply for roles. As I mentioned, the design of our stores is very different, made to look appealing. We call them stores because it's a retail feel rather than a branch, as traditionally other people have called them. We have grand openings when we open up our stores, and normally that's a big party event. We also hold events in stores like networking groups and such. So in Newbury, we have Buzz Connect is something we do locally. We're just starting something called Sterling Networks as well in May. So those are things to look out for, guys, if you're interested. That's how we make use of our space, get people in and get people to network together. We're doing the Buzz Connect online at the moment. So that's you can join that. You can just search Buzz Connect and jump in. There's a group in Basingstoke, there's a group in Newbury, and there's a group in Reading. But you can do all three if you want. Yeah, so in terms of store opening hours, we normally open early and late, 7 days a week. Through lockdown, we've cut our hours slightly and we've taken out the weekends, but we're still providing a daily service 10 till 4. I think all the banks have had to change their model slightly, but we're still providing opening hours slightly longer than the rest. So we continue that through all the lockdowns we've been through. Very much about local banking for the local communities. So in every store we have a local business manager, which is Sebastian, providing that service and face-to-face if people wish it. We open accounts in store. At the moment, there is a pause on business accounts being opened. That's really as a result of the bounce back loan and the volume. A lot of the banks stopped opening new business accounts, and then everyone was coming into the banks that were. So we just had to take a decision to pause that, but that will be started up again. It'll go online first of all, and then hopefully back into store soon after. We print debit cards in store. We've got safe deposits, magic money machine, which counts your money and puts it into your account. Very, very simple, but the kids love it, and so do some of the adults. Oops, I've just gone too far. And if you've got a dog, you can bring it into store. That's very different, and we'll give it some biscuits and lollipops for the kids. So, you know, there's just a little few of the touches around the edges, but that makes us different to the other banks. In terms of our vision, we want to be the UK's best community bank. That's really where we want to get to. How do we do that? Well, we create fans. We say people that bank with us and like what we do, they're a fan. They're fanatical about our business, and they will tell other people. We like to surprise and delight our customers, so that's by doing what they might ask of us, but maybe a little bit more, just, you know, doing something that they may not have thought about. So just really being on the front foot, thinking like retailers, but whilst also being professional bankers. So that goes back to the stores, the opening hours and the setup. We're working as one team, so every customer matters, and we're all working towards serving them. And building the bank one store at a time. So as I said, we've been opening stores even through lockdown. We'll do a couple more this year. And you know, it's great to recruit locally and grow the bank from there. Our values are what we call amazing. So each letter in the mnemonic stands for something. So attending to every detail, making sure we correct every wrong that might happen. If colleagues are not sure, we say ask, bump it up. We're very much about zest. So we like to have zest in the business, so share it. We also like to exceed customers' expectations. So it's going the extra mile and being a bit different. And then the ING is about inspiring, nurturing colleagues and game changing. So this is about developing our colleagues and helping them with their careers and where they might want to go. And with that, I will move on to the next slide for Sebastian to continue.
Yeah, good evening all. As Phil mentioned, I'm Sebastian. I'm the local business manager for Metro Bank in Newbury. Obviously, some of you I know on here, some of you may not have come across me as yet. I took over the LBM role in Newbury just over 3 years ago, after 15 years of working with Santander. And I've absolutely loved Metro Bank since I've joined, as they really do stand for the customer rather than the bank itself, if that makes sense. One of our key things, as Phil's highlighted on all of this already, is customer service. We're emphatic about trying to deliver the best customer service we can. CMA results, as we've seen, highlight us in a positive outlet compared to our peers, and we strive to continue to be at the top of our game on that front. How we do that, anyone that comes into the store will always get welcomed and greeted at the front door. Anyone that is looking to sort of inquire about accounts, etc. with us, we will take them on what we call a store tour. So we'll take them around the store so they can see some of the key things, like Phil's mentioned, our magic money machine. We've got our safety deposit boxes as well, which people can use to obviously put their belongings in there of high value, etc. We'll show them the sort of interest rate boards, how the counter works and how the customer service representatives works on their desks. When we do sit down with our customers, we are generally passionate about listening to what they have to say to us. I think Phil and I have both worked for banks previously, and there was always a real bad sales culture within banking, where people would possibly come in to open up, say, a savings account and potentially walk out with a credit card and a general insurance because somebody's targeted for that. We are not like that at all. We will listen to what the customer needs, and then we will highlight some areas where we can help them. And if that's something that they wish to act on, then great, we will do it there and then for them. Keeping customers informed is something that we try and do at the utmost every single time, as we appreciate that nobody likes to hang around waiting for an email or a phone call. We try and keep to the timescales that we suggest. We appreciate getting things right first time, but on the odd occasion this may not always happen, and it's how we can get those mistakes or put everything right the second time round, which can go a long way to enhancing the relationship with our customers. Our customers can choose how they wish to bank with us. So again, a lot of the high street banks have gone to where you may have to use online platforms or call centres or cash point machines to potentially get better rates of interest. That is not the case with us. You can either use the store network, the online banking platform, or you can use our telephony centre as well, and you will get the same deal every single time. If you can just move on to the next one for me, Phil, please. Growing the bank, as Phil mentioned, we are all about trying to create fans. So this is all really about trying to get somebody to who's walked into our bank, walking back out the door thinking that we are fantastic, and go home and tell their family, their friends, their business associates, etc. about us. The bank has grown organically through this, so we've never advertised on TV or radio. We've recently done a people-to-people advertising campaign in local areas. So you may have seen in, for instance, Newbury, there may have been posters at bus stops and on certain billboards, but we've actually used the people that work within the bank for those. Unfortunately, I failed in my application to get my face as the face of Newbury, so I might need to have a shave or perhaps have a haircut. As Phil's mentioned, we do a number of in-store and currently virtual networking events to support our local businesses as well as our community. Just to give you an idea of this, we look after an account for somebody who runs a charity called Anna's Victorious. They're looking for sponsorship for an amazing sort of thing they're doing. They're about to, or were due to row the Atlantic Ocean, I think it's next year, and they needed to raise 150,000 in terms of sponsorship. Now, unfortunately, we're not able to put money towards that, but what we were able to do is put on an event for them in the store. We supply the space for them, and we were able to supply sort of drinks, some food, etc. for people to come in, and we invited sort of local accountants, solicitors, business people that we deal with currently, and anyone else that was willing to come along just to sort of hear about their story, what it sort of means to Ed, who's behind it all, and what they're about to sort of campaign on. And that was really well received, and that's something that we try and do more and more often than not. As well as I think it's the Berkshire Homeless that Phil and I went out with a couple of our colleagues to help during the summer when you were allowed to just about get out and about. I think they had about 8 or 9 shipping containers full of sort of people's second-hand goods, so i.e. cutlery, plates, clothing, etc., which all needed to reorganise to put into boxes ready for people that potentially had found homes to move into. And we get 5 days each year for us to be able to go off and do that without having to take personal holiday ourselves. That's something that the bank enforces us, it empowers us to go ahead and do. And if we can move on, Phil. So from my sort of point of view, business service that we offer, I think the key point is we offer that relationship face-to-face banking that a lot of our competitors have stepped away from. I have a portfolio of customers that turn over up to £2 million. If your business was turning over more than that, you would go into our commercial space and you would again get a dedicated relationship manager. I currently work with a chap called John Tunnicliffe, who would then deal with my relationships locally there within that bracket. You get to use the stores we've mentioned, you get to use the online banking platforms along with our telephony centre. We're able to support businesses with their sort of day-to-day transactional accounts, so we can look for their business accounts, we can help with giving them a slightly better rate on their savings deposits. Ways that we can help them in terms of their working capital would be such things as business overdrafts, business credit cards, and business loans. We became an accredited lender on the coronavirus business interruption loan as well as the bounce back loan. So again, we've been able to support our local community with those. And again, we do offer forms of asset finance, invoice finance for people looking to grow their business or purchase, for instance, vehicles or machinery, as well as the ability to accept card payments, different levels of online banking to suit your needs, as well as some of the accounting software that we're linked up with ClearBooks, Xero, as well as direct debit origination. So we like to think we can give a good all-round sort of package and service depending on each individual's needs. And that is really it from us. I don't want to send you all to sleep, but thanks for listening. And obviously, if there's any questions, please fire away, and Phil and I will do our best to answer them for you.
That's a quick question. Oh, sorry.
But do you know when the last applications for C bills and B bills have to be fixed by?
Yeah, so the bounce back loan, I think, is running until the end of March, if my memory serves me correct.
Yep.
The civils loans applications have to be in, I have a feeling, is it the 20, is it again the end of March, Phil?
I think
so
they're both
applications
end of
are
March.
in.
Yeah.
We will pay out any applications up to the end of May, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and another question for you is, on the basis that you're not prepared to open up in Hungerford, and I kind of understand that, I suppose,
Sorry.
where can shopkeepers and
Yeah.
the public pay their checks and money into?
Yeah. So we're set up with the post office network as well, Simon. So we can set you up to be able to deposit checks and cash via a post office, which I'm sure there is one in Hungerford. You also are able to post your checks into us in the store, should you wish to. Something that I've always given as an option to my customers, a few of you may know, I don't live in the sort of Newbury, Hungerford, Berkshire area. I actually live in Cirencester, so I do tend to drive through Hungerford on my way into work. And as I say to a number of my customers, if you're happy for me to, I'd more than happily collect checks on my way into work and pay them in when I get into the store.
Bloody good.
Brilliant. Well done.
And
Just checks, no cash.
You'll need a great big strong box and an armed guard.
That's it.
But yeah, I mean, part of what makes us different is the people behind it, and we are, if we can, we're all willing to go that extra mile to try and help deliver that great customer service for our customers. And for me, I'm very passionate about customer service, and it's something that has always driven me in terms of my day-to-day job. And a small little thing like stopping, picking up a check, because appreciate your time is money. You're very busy people. You may not always be able to get into a store. It makes no odds to me, as I'm generally travelling in early anyway to work, and more than happy to do that for anyone.
We've recently switched to Metro and been very happy so far.
Thank you, Emma. I'm
Great
glad to hear it.
Can I
Well,
just say
Marlborough is in the process of switch it. But can I just ask one question?
Of course you can.
From a Chamber of Commerce point of view, I appreciate Hungerford's maybe not on your radar right now, but is it on a radar at any point? Could it be on the radar? What do we have to do? Is there you need to have 50 business customers and for you to warrant a branch in Hungerford?
I can't really give you a time scale on that, or if at all, Karen. I mean, it really is down to the size and the footfall that we would anticipate. So we've got stores planned for Leicester this year and Bradford, I believe. So we tend to be picking bigger towns. I'm not saying that Hungerford isn't big at all, but you know what I mean. It's got to have a certain critical mass to it to make it work. So I don't think we'll be seeing one in the near future. I mean, part of our model is not to be like the other banks and have a store in every town, because as you can see, that's not worked, has it? The other banks have had to retrench a bit and reduce their footprint. So we'd rather be doing it well, but and making sure we provide that service all around. We do have other solutions, of course.
Yeah.
I think one of the key points on the store openings at the moment is we may see more potentially open in the northern part of the country, which is part of the, some of you may be aware, Royal Bank of Scotland have had to sort of split out part of their business book, if you like. So we, as a challenger bank, were fortunate to win a pot of money to develop our offerings plus also our store network. So we're obviously trying to open more stores up north to serve the Royal Bank of Scotland customers up there. But yeah, as I said, as Phil said, Karen, it would be lovely if we could put one in Hungerford, but we'll have to watch this space.
Where's the next nearest one from Newbury then to us?
You've got Reading, you've got Basingstoke.
Swindon would be probably within a stone's throw, I think, from Hungerford for you as well.
Yeah.
We're also, but if you're out, when we're out of COVID, if you are potentially furthering a bit further west down the M4, if you're shopping in Bath or Bristol, we've also got stores located there also.
Can I just say that the advisor's been with Metro Bank from when we took over the magazine, and you've been brilliant. I don't actually live in Hungerford. I actually live nearer to Marlborough. I do all my banking online or take my checks to my very small local post office, or it's been brilliant.
Great.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you. Yeah. I think there's a way, you know, it depends what the requirements are. And yeah, of course, we do like to see people face to face if we can. We've got the bricks and mortar, but if we can do it a different way, we can do it a different way.
Well, Phil, are you actually saying that right now we could go down to the post office in Hungerford, which is part of WH Smith's, and get a Metro envelope and put our checks in?
We'd set an arrangement up with them to say you're going in, and yes, you could use it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sarah's post office is literally across the road, so like 30 yards. It's not that well used, so there's no queuing either.
Yeah.
I did have to get my own. I do have to get my own envelopes from Metro Bank sent on a regular basis, though. They don't have the Metro Bank envelopes in there, but I have to say the whole process of setting up an account when we brought the magazine was absolutely brilliant. It was really easy. We went in store and did it. It was all set up there and then, and I've had no problems whatsoever. I can't recommend you enough.
Thank you, Sarah. It's as Phil said. I mean, during this sort of COVID side, it's I wouldn't say it's been challenging, but trying to be able to do stuff virtually when we're so used to trying to invite people to come into the store so they can get a feel for how we operate. And you know, our account opening for what we would call a simple sole trader limited company account, there's a very good chance that we would have been able to open that there and then on the spot, as well as print off the debit cards, as well as set up your online banking. Unfortunately, there can occasionally be the odd regulatory requirement that gets in the way, which might sort of just hinder the progress slightly by a day or two. But generally, you know, I think we're able to turn things around a lot quicker than our competitors, certainly during the COVID time at the moment. Because I think a lot of the stories I've heard is it was taking sort of at least 6 or 7 weeks just for people to get an appointment to speak to somebody on the phone, and then potentially another 6 or 7 weeks to get an account open after that. So yeah, it's been challenging, but one I think we've embraced with the new modern technology in terms of virtual calls, and obviously we're trying to do as much as we can by email, and where possible socially distanced. You know, I'm still happy to go out and collect paperwork, etc., from people.
You know when you'll be opening for weekends?
Yeah, I think probably not until we're out of this lockdown, realistically, because that's what we did last time when it was March to July. We just had to reshape our resource accordingly. So I think it's going to be a little while, and obviously, as we know, we're not quite sure when that's exactly going to finish. But
when the tulips open,
that's it.
When this year's tulips.
Well, we're all going to be looking for those tulips now, aren't we?
I think we are.
But I'm conscious of the time that people are having to go and everything. But if nobody's got any more questions, Andrew, do you still want some time to talk to us about how we're all slumped over our desks?
Well, the thing is I'm more than happy to. The thing is that I think what's important with all of this is, for people that don't know me, I run a West Berkshire Injury Clinic, which is actually just off the High Street in Hungerford. I've also got a very small place in Newbury, which I think Seb has actually been around and viewed.
I have.
I think what's really important at the moment, I think, yes, when I was asked about this and asked about working at home, I think it's really important that we actually look at several things, especially as we found ourselves being in lockdown again. One of the things that I think we need to be aware of is the fact that with the weather, how it's been over the last few weeks, and the fact that normally January is quite a flat month for a number of people. It's quite often where people have got things like SAD and mental health issues. It can be quite an imposing time for everybody. And also I think this year more than ever, because Christmas wasn't what we hoped it would be, and I think it's affected everything, we do need to bear in mind what's happening with the lockdown. And I think this is something which I've seen on things like the Hungerford Notice Board and things like that, is how important the mental health aspects. And this is where I think, Emma, the fact that you're still able to provide books, the whole element around books and allowing people to use their imagination is absolutely critical at this time. So it's really important that I think as a general body and as a chamber, I do think we need to be able to look at that. But we also need to look at our own mental health as well. It's very important. The dark nights, how everybody is able to work, how people are working, is really impacting more. But we are seeing some noticeable differences. And I think it's really important that we look at the positives as well. I commented to somebody today, it was 5:15 and I could actually see the other side of the road and it was still light. So the thing is that we are going towards spring. So the thing is that spring opening, that type of thing. But one of the things about mental health and what people really don't understand, and it's something that's been picked up, is how psychological issues can actually cause physical pain. And the thing is that one of the things which you see with people is this, when they're stressed, you see the shoulders going up around their ears. And the thing is that really often builds up into neck and upper back problems. So you've got to think about that. And yes, I'm going to talk about working at home and a lot of it. Now, not everybody is behind the desk all the time, but the thing is that I'm going to look at that. But you've also got to think about other things, whether you're doing packing, whether you're doing various different acts, how you're actually working at and how you're working at the moment. And I think these are the things that you need to do. When working at home, it's not just about your computer setup, it's about your whole working protocol. When you're working in an office, one of the things that you really need to think about is you're interacting with people. Normally when you're in an office or when you're in the bank or whatever, it's about communication, it's about talking to people and things like that. So what you need to do, you start at a specific time, you have your lunch, you make sure you have your lunch, because it's very easy to then work the way through. You start at 7 o'clock in the morning, you work through, not thinking about when your endpoints are. And that does actually have an impact on your mental health. And so those aspects are really quite important. Now, when you're actually in an office, you will get up every now and again, make yourself a cup of tea, go and have a cup of coffee, go to the toilet, or just to go over and have a chat with somebody that's working at the same place as you. Obviously, it's different with retail, but the thing is, you're still, because you're talking with people all the time anyway. But you've got to think about this type of human interaction point. And it might be a case of what's important is actually picking up the phone to somebody and actually talking to them, or doing a FaceTime or a quick call, so you can actually see somebody and actually think about it. And I've concentrated a lot on the mental health. But the other thing is that it's about maximizing the time that you're working, and also recognizing that you can have a tendency to work too long, which will then have an impact on what you're doing. So it's get that balance through. At the moment with lockdown, you're allowed to go out for exercise. What people don't realise is how much people need fresh air, how much people need to get out of the building they're in, to go out and just be able to breathe. So the thing is, the big thing I would say is, if you're not getting out, even if you're not getting out, make an effort to get out, even if it's going out for 10 minutes and coming back for 10 minutes. So you go out for 20 minutes, just to give yourself a break. And try and do it when it's daylight, so you can actually see what's going on around you. Obviously, if it's miserable, one of my colleagues actually turns around and says, the only thing to stop you going out is incorrect clothing, not the weather. The thing is, you can put your hat on, you can put your scarf on, you put your gloves on, you put your waterproof jacket on, you can still go out, and that's really important. And and have a look at what's around you and what's going on. Things there might be something that's going on over the other side of the real bit of building. You can be a bit nosy and see what's going on, what somebody's doing, what household extension somebody's actually having done. But the thing is that it gets you out and it allows you to think. The other thing which I always say to people is, you have your smile and hello methods going. The thing is, people might not want to be talking to you, but if you go out to people and you're walking around a park, say, and you see somebody, smile at them and say hello. The thing is that you'd be amazed how much difference that actually makes to them, but also makes to you as well. Because so the thing is, if you smile, it uses more muscles. That's one thing, which is good for you. But the other thing is, it engages with people. And that is so important at this time. And this time more than anything, where we need to have the ability to smile, to think positively about things. Is smile and say hello. It takes 2 seconds and it makes you feel better, and it'll make them feeling better. And you'll be amazed at that. I will go on and talk about office setup. One of the things that we see is that quite often people are using laptops at home and that type of thing. And the thing is that the problem is the laptop is designed for working for short periods of time. They're not designed to work for long periods of time, because what happens if you're looking down at a laptop screen, you're going to be doing this, and the thing is you're going to be compressing all of this area of your neck, but you also good on you, Seb, I saw you moving, but you're also you're not working the muscles between your shoulder blades. And the problem is that it does, and what happens is the muscles are constantly trying to pull you back. And that's when you get your neck pain, you get your shoulder pain, and you get that whole feeling of tension and everything like that. So the key things which I would say, if you're using a laptop and you don't want to buy a separate screen, you can get a riser, which from Amazon, you can get a very basic one, simple, for about £15. The other thing I would say is you have a separate keyboard and mouse when you're doing something. So I've got separate mouse, separate keyboard, which is all there, and everything's set up. The screen height, I'm looking down at the laptop, but I've got a separate screen. Screen height should be roughly at eye level. So when you're working, so that you're constantly looking forward. And the other thing is that making sure that you have everything in a nicely spaced manner. So when I'm using the mouse, it's just to the side. Doesn't matter whether it's left or right, just to the side. And everything is comfortable. Everything is about comfort. There isn't an ideal position, but it's about comfort. And that's really what's important when you're doing that. When you're typing, making sure that your arms are supported. But the big thing, and what I was talking about earlier, about breaks and things like that, you should have a break every 40 minutes. And get up, stretch, doesn't matter, you can spend 2 seconds just stretching up. I'm in a loft room at the moment, so I can't stretch up fully. So you can really stretch up and move around. And the thing is, you'll be amazed how much difference that makes to your upper back. And the other thing is that I would say, if you're in the house on your own and you've got some real tension going with that, now if you're on your house on your own and you haven't got somebody who's going to worry what's going on, just go and shout out the window at something. Now you'd be amazed how much difference that will actually make to your whole tension, because everything will be released by you just yelling out the window. Now, you might get some funny looks, but to be honest, I'm used to that. I get plenty of those already. So those are the type of things. There's some very simple things that you can do. But I think during this lockdown and during the next however long until spring really catches up, really think about your working style, how often you're working, making sure you're taking regular breaks, and making sure that your setup is right for you. And I think that is the key message that I want to get across to everybody. We are open, and the thing is, if you do have problems, we are open if there is justification for you to be treated. And we're not going to leave people to be in pain. So the thing is just get in touch with us if you find you need to. But I hope that's been of use. I haven't prepared a presentation because I find it easier sometimes just to talk organically. But I hope that's been of use.
That has, Andrew. And if those of you who don't want to go on Amazon and buy a riser, there's some really good big books from Emma's shop.
I'm not too sure that's the right use of the book, though.
This one that I got for Christmas, which you can put under your laptop.
And you don't have to shop at Amazon, which is always good.
And that is a good point. And must admit, if there was a local computer company that was doing them, I'd be mentioning them. But that's the thing. But
oh yeah, thanks for that, Andrew. I think what the thing I find is my ankles. If I sit too long and then I get up, my ankles feel as if, you know, they're really, I don't know, they're almost going to break, and I have to do that with my feet. It's ridiculous. For the first 10 seconds of get up, I'm almost hobbling, which is ridiculous at my age.
Your body's designed for movement. Yeah, your body's designed for movement. It really is designed for movement. So the key thing, that's why you get up and move every 40 minutes and stretch. It's because of the things, the body, if the body doesn't move, it will just stay in that position. Yeah. It's not like when I was growing up, when my mum always turned around, don't look at the television for so long because you get square eyes, because that's not true. But the thing is that if you're actually working and you're stuck in the same position, especially as you get older, the muscles stay in a contracted position, and they will stay in that position, and it becomes more difficult for the joints to move then. So movement is key.
Movement is me getting old.
No, it's the same for everybody. It doesn't matter their age, but the thing is the effect does get worse.
Brilliant. All right. Well, thanks ever so much, guys. Has anybody got any questions for anybody, including us at the chamber or the bank or Karen? Anybody got any questions? Nope. Brilliant. Okay, well, keep a lookout for everything the Chamber's doing. Obviously, we'll still do the click and collect. I'll speak to Fiona later in the week about that. And hopefully we'll all be able to have a proper meeting soon. It'd be nice to get Phil and Sebastian actually into a meeting that they can actually, you know, meet people and follow their mantras, what they say, face to face. Don't forget my application, boys. I need my account done this week.
We're on it.
Thank you for Marlborough Law. But yeah, thanks everybody for taking part. I hope it was useful. Penny will put the recording on the various social media things. And from me and the Chamber, take care, everybody. Stay safe. See you soon.
Fantastic. Thanks for having us, guys.
Cheers. Take care.
All the best.
Bye-bye.